Coming up on today's show, we have a new rumor to talk about as the Baltimore Ravens are considered a favorite to potentially land Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Brandin Cooks. We will dissect the possibility, go over the trade idea, react to it, and what it means for the Baltimore Ravens. How likely is it they bring in Brandin Cooks? We'll discuss here on today's show. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. If you want the Ravens to add another wide receiver, because that's been the talk of the town the last few weeks, then like today's video. Let's make our voices heard loud and clear for Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh and company. Let us know that we want to see another wide receiver added. Somebody, anybody, please, right? Trade or free agency, draft, whatever it may be. Like the video, we'll get started with today's show. Bleacher Report is suggesting that the Ravens make a trade for Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Brandin Cooks. And you look at Brandin Cooks, he's been a journeyman throughout his career in the National Football League, but he's been somebody that has been successful in multiple schemes, multiple teams. He's on the back end of his career now, but still could have something potentially left to offer his next team if the Dallas Cowboys were to ultimately move on from him. Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report said the following: Cooks would be a logical replacement for Beckham in Baltimore's lineup, given the similar skill set. His relatively reasonable salary could also benefit the Ravens, who have just $16.5 million in projected cap space. 2024 free agent receiver class is deep, but that doesn't mean that quality pass catchers will suddenly become affordable. Since the Ravens pick late in the draft order, Dallas could conceivably pry a bit more draft capital in the form of a seventh-round pick swap in this hypothetical trade than it might a team like Cleveland. Now, I'll say this. When you look at the Ravens' situation here, I think there are better options available for the Ravens rather than having to give up draft capital for Brandin Cooks here, all right? I mean, when we talk about the talent that the Ravens could choose from with their pick at 30th overall, or maybe even free agency, guys that are out there and not have to cost you draft capital compared to what you'd have to give up for Brandin Cooks here, there are better options. I'll say this before we show you this trade idea that Bleacher Report's putting together. I want to make it very clear. I would not hate a trade for Brandin Cooks, but it wouldn't be what I would do, okay? Here's what we're talking about of their potential trade idea that's thrown out there. The Ravens get Cooks. They get a seventh-round pick. 244 overall with that pick swap. So they go from 228 to 244. And they give up a fifth-round pick. So in essence, you're giving up a fifth-round pick for Brandin Cooks is what you're looking at here. Would it be what I do? No, but it's not something I would lose sleep over and be upset. Like, how dare they give up a fifth-round pick for Brandin Cooks? I think they could do better than that, but let's ask you. Should the Ravens trade for Brandin Cooks? It's our pinned comment today. Why for yes, and for no? Let us know in the comment section. What would you do? Would you do this trade for Brandin Cooks or not? Weigh in, tell us what you think. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. They've got specials for new and returning users alike for March Madness when you head over to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Football season may be over, but the action on the hardwood is heating up. Whether it's March Madness or the fight for NBA playoff seeding, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Now, I know that we're going to resume the NCAA tournament here in a couple days, but to get you by for now, all right, folks, let's talk a little NBA for you. Steph Curry, more than 2.5 turnovers. I think that's likely here. Going with our guy Bam, they have more than 10.5 rebounds. He's a rebound machine. I think that this could go pretty well for me. If I put $20 down on this, then we win. It turns into $60 on Prize Picks, folks. Prize Picks is simple. You pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at PrizePicks.com/CLNS and get a first-time deposit match of $100. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. More on Brandin Cooks. He was traded to Dallas from the Houston Texans last offseason. We mentioned him being a journeyman. He's been in Houston. He's been with the Rams, the Patriots, and the Saints, all over the place, right? And you talk about consistency throughout Brandin Cooks' career. He's had 6 seasons with at least 1,000 receiving yards. So a pretty impressive number. Now, is he likely to do that again? Probably not. But still not bad of what we saw last season with Dallas. 54 catches, 657 yards, 12.2 yards per reception, and 8 touchdowns. That touchdown number was the highest that he's had in the last 4 seasons. And those numbers are better than what we saw from Odell Beckham this past year with the Baltimore Ravens. If we're going to be frank, Brandin Cooks would be an upgrade from the version the Ravens got of OBJ in 2023. And he would be less money than what they paid OBJ. So that part, you have my attention here. You might be able to talk me into this possibility of going from what you had in OBJ to adding Cooks. And you look at where this Ravens receiving core is at. They need that one more piece. Cooks for Baltimore, it's not like a long-term solution. It's like a one-year rental. Think of it that way, if you will. More to come here on Ravens Rundown in just a moment. I'm Brandin Cooks. I want to show you some numbers and the depth chart and all that. But a reminder, you got to subscribe to Ravens Rundown, your one-stop shop for Baltimore Ravens offseason news and rumors. We're talking about trades, the draft, free agency, all of it. It's right here on the channel. Never miss a moment. If the Ravens make a move, you know we're going to talk about it. YouTube.com/RavensTV. Lock us in for free. Help us reach our next milestone, 16,000 subscribers right here on the channel. So here is what the Ravens receiving core looks like right now. Zay Flowers is the only Ravens receiver that is under contract for 2025. Everyone else is up in the air about their future going forward. Rashad Bateman, of course, entering a contract year. Nelson Aguilar coming off a solid season as the Ravens' number 4 receiver. He's back. Tylan Wallace, we've seen have an impact when it comes to special teams, and his role will increase with the departure of Devin Duvernay. But there's obviously room for improvement here. You can't walk into opening day with this as your receiver room. So, if the Ravens don't make a trade for a guy like Brandin Cooks, where else could they go? Right now, here is the top receivers on the market where things stand right now. Tyler Boyd's out there, probably a little bit too high out of the Ravens' price range. They've had meetings with Michael Gallup and Josh Reynolds. No deal in place on that front, but it doesn't sound like the door has closed on those possibilities. DJ Chark's out there. Then there's Michael Thomas as well. What intrigues me most is looking ahead to the draft. The Ravens hold that pick at 30. And this is an outstanding year when it comes to receivers in the 2024 draft. And despite the Ravens picking towards the end of the first round, there's still going to be plenty of good options available. Brian Thomas Jr., I don't know if he's still going to be there when the Ravens pick at 30, but if he is, he'd be hard to say no to. Keon Coleman, I know that his numbers weren't too flashy, but he still had moments where he dominated for that Florida State team in 2023. Xavier Worthy, the fastest player ever at the NFL Scouting Combine, 4.21, can just fly down the field. He would be a nice complementary piece alongside Zay Flowers there. Worthy's teammate, Adonai Mitchell, very good receiver as well in his own right. And then Ladd McConkey is getting some love as well from Georgia. His stock's starting to rise as a possession receiver of sorts. And he didn't have great numbers, but that offense wasn't suited for a high-powered air attack either there with Georgia playing with Carson Beck and everything there. And he did play under Todd Monken there at Georgia as well. So let's ask you, now we've gone through the potential options, who is a receiver the Ravens should add, whether it's via trade, free agency, the draft. Chime in. Let us know a guy that you think should be joining the Baltimore Ravens. If you enjoyed today's show, if you want the Ravens to add a receiver, like the video. We would appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time here on Ravens Run.